Get out of that wheelchair right now, or you're going to die. The urgency in the voice behind me was unmistakable as I desperately gripped the wheelchair's brakes. Tyler's cheerful voice echoed, but my focus was on halting the accelerating wheelchair. We were meant to celebrate our love that day, but instead, anger consumed me more than sadness. In the struggle against the unstoppable wheelchair, frustration reached its peak. Suddenly, the wheelchair jolted, and I was thrown off, consciousness slipping away. The next day, I woke up in a hospital room, with Tyler tearfully beside me on the next bed. Amy, you're okay. I got hit by a car, my leg. Tyler's voice cracked with emotion as he revealed his own injury. He pulled off the blanket, revealing his amputated leg. You're going to help me, right? We're married, he pleaded. I refused. Tyler was dumbfounded, unable to comprehend my rejection. Who's going to help me then? He asked, bewildered. I decided to express my feelings. My name is Amy Moore. I'm a 45-year-old illustrator. I used to be active, participating in national swimming competitions during my student days. But 2 years ago, I fell ill, losing the strength in my left leg. Now I live in a wheelchair. Tyler, you changed after my illness. You started demanding money from my family for accessibility modifications and a helper. When I used my savings for it, you still complained. I can't understand you anymore. Despite his objections, I used my savings and year-end bonus to make our home accessible and hired a housekeeping service. Tyler's constant complaints about the helper's work drove me to the edge. One day, I exploded in anger. Why do you say such rude things? She's doing her job, and you're only finding faults. The world's value was being underestimated, and the notion of paying for housework seemed peculiar to me. Why should we pay for it? Have her do it for free, I argued vehemently. Tyler was momentarily taken aback by my intensity, but his face soon twisted into a smirk. To my disbelief, he uttered something unimaginable. If you insist, then fine, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. I'll deduct the same amount we're paying her from her living expenses. What? I felt lightheaded, struggling to grasp Tyler's incomprehensible decision. We'd have been paying the woman in charge around $1,000 a month. Half of that amount came from my own contributions to our living expenses. But now Tyler proposed putting that entire $1,000 into his own pocket instead of the shared household expenses. Our budget was already strained, and if Tyler didn't contribute, I would have to cover the shortfall. In other words, my out-of-pocket contribution would skyrocket from $500 to $1,500, effectively tripling. Holding my temples in frustration, I shot back. If you deduct $1,000, your contribution to the living expenses becomes $500. Where am I supposed to find the extra $1,000? Well, it's your decision, so you should pay for it. You're earning, aren't you? Tyler retorted callously, unfazed by my distress. Unbelievable. It was true that after falling ill, I had bravely ventured into independence and was managing, but my income was only slightly higher than what I earned as a company employee. Another deduction of $1,000 would wipe out my savings entirely. However, Tyler showed no signs of relenting. Fine, but promise me one thing, he said cheerfully, completely indifferent to my anxiety. Make sure you save that $1,000 properly. Got it? With a sinking feeling, I agreed. But beneath the facade of compliance, nothing but anxiety gnawed at my insides. Tyler ceased complaining about the housework agency, but in equal measure, he stopped doing any housework himself. Hey, even though we're hiring the housework agency, we should still handle the daily chores, I implored, hoping for some semblance of shared responsibility. Huh, was all Tyler replied, dismissing my concerns with an indifferent shrug. What are you talking about? We're paying them, so let them do it, Tyler said dismissively, his attitude growing more distant. He started leaving the house more frequently, and when we did interact, his expressions were filled with disgust. The thought of divorce started to cross my mind. One day, out of the blue, he suggested, "Hey, want to go see the cherry blossoms in the botanical garden?" Cherry blossoms. We had barely spoken for 2 months. His sudden invitation left me bewildered. We'd just been passing by each other lately. I thought it'd be nice to talk while enjoying the beautiful flowers, he said, attempting a smile. Relieved by the prospect of conversation, I agreed hesitantly. As we strolled, he pushed my wheelchair, and we engaged in trivial conversation, which somewhat eased my troubled heart. Maybe our recent discord was because we hadn't been communicating enough. Just as I began to entertain that idea, Tyler dropped a bombshell. You know, I'm out of money. I really need your insurance money soon. What? I barely heard his words as my wheelchair suddenly started descending a slope, pushed forcefully by Tyler. Panicked, I desperately reached for the brakes. You better get out of that wheelchair fast, or you're gonna die. Tyler's cheerful voice echoed from behind, even as I struggled to stop the accelerating wheelchair. Fueled by anger, I pulled the wheelchair's brakes with all my strength. The wheelchair screeched to a halt, but it was too late. The tire had caught on something, and I was thrown from the wheelchair. There was a loud noise, and then darkness swallowed my consciousness. When I woke up the next day, I was in a hospital room. Glancing sideways, I saw Tyler crying on the next bed. After a while, he noticed I was awake and spoke with a fake smile. Amy, you're safe. I was hit by a car, and my leg. His emotions escalated, and he tore off his blanket, revealing his body with only one leg attached. You'll help me, right? We're husband and wife, after all, he implored. I refuse, I replied firmly. Tyler was left speechless, unable to comprehend my refusal. Why would you refuse to help me? He stammered. Why should I take care of someone who pushed me down a hill just to get insurance money? I exclaimed, letting out all the pent-up emotions. I regret trusting you. If apologies could fix everything, we wouldn't need the police. My words drained the color from Tyler's face. I continued, not allowing him to interrupt. Weren't you supposed to be saving $1,000 a month for me? What happened to that? I asked accusingly. I am doing that, he replied, his voice shaky. Oh, really? Then use that money to pay for this hospital stay, I challenged him. Tyler stuttered in a panic, realizing he couldn't fulfill his promise. It became evident why I knew his financial situation. I had been managing our accounts. When our relationship was good, I didn't check his finances, but when he failed to deposit the agreed sum, I took matters into my own hands. I discovered he had been sending the money elsewhere, to a woman. I hired a detective and uncovered Tyler's deceitful web. Not only had he cheated on me, but he had also fathered a child with his affair partner. The money he had been diverting was meant as child support for this 4-year-old girl. It was a shocking revelation. I couldn't help but add another twist to the tale. You've been supporting someone else's child, Tyler. Have you been visiting her? I questioned, enjoying the shock registering on his face. About a month now, I added casually, watching Tyler's jaw drop in disbelief. He had been living a lie, unaware that the child he thought was his own wasn't biologically related to him. What are you talking about? She's my child. Tyler protested, confusion etched across his face. His belief in the situation was so strong that I couldn't help but burst into laughter. You really thought I was the reason we couldn't have kids? I said between fits of laughter, his naive expression fueling my amusement. That's a lie. Tyler's face drained of color. In reality, we've been undergoing infertility treatments for 3 years since our marriage, I revealed, explaining that Tyler was the reason we couldn't conceive. But I kept it from you, following my father-in-law's advice. He feared it would shatter you emotionally. Tyler was left stunned, processing the truth. The reality was far different from the world he had constructed in his mind. In his disbelief, Tyler reached for his smartphone and dialed someone's number, probably his affair partner. Hey, did you have an affair? Is the child not mine? He shouted into the phone. Listening to his heated conversation, I couldn't suppress a chuckle. Did you have an affair too? Tyler accused, his voice growing sharper. But my laughter drowned out his words. The call was abruptly cut off from the other end, leaving Tyler fuming. He tried repeatedly to reconnect, but his attempts were in vain. Frustrated, he muttered about his affair partner's greed, seemingly forgetting my presence. I interrupted his tirade. Sorry to interrupt your heated conversation, Tyler, but we're not done talking. His eyes widened in dread, realizing that the conversation was far from over. Tyler's realization that I was there seemed to jolt him back to reality. I regained control of the conversation with a smile, asking, "Do you recall signing the papers when we decided to save the $1,000 you spent?" Huh. Tyler's demeanor showed his clear intention to renege on his agreement. I sighed, unsurprised by his attitude. It appeared he had planned to back out from the start. I grabbed my smartphone from the table and showed him a photo. "See, it's written here. In case of misuse, divorce, and the entire amount spent up to the discovered month will be paid to the wife, Amy." "That wasn't there," Tyler protested, his frustration evident. "Oh, but it's properly checked, and there's a signature too, isn't it?" "It's even notarized," I countered calmly. Tyler's frustration grew, and he appealed to me desperately. "Come on, Amy, I was just possessed. Please don't mention divorce. Besides, I can't afford such a large sum. Divorce is too extreme. I can't handle it. The divorce is settled. However, you can pay the spent amount in installments," I replied, my tone unyielding. Seeing my resolve, Tyler tried to portray himself as the victim. He pleaded, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. I sighed and gestured toward the figure lurking at the hospital room entrance. "Please come in, Dad." Upon seeing his father-in-law, Tyler shouted, "My father-in-law, please listen. This is all a misunderstanding." My father-in-law's face turned crimson, his eyes glaring at Tyler. "This marks the end of our relationship," he declared, glaring at Tyler before turning to me with an apology. "I'm truly sorry. I won't ask for forgiveness, and it's fine if you don't. Please file a complaint. I'm just glad Amy is safe. Thank you." Tears welled in his eyes, dropping onto my bed. I shot Tyler an accusatory glare, holding him responsible for making my beloved father-in-law endure this ordeal. "What? Don't you feel anything seeing this? It's your fault. Always spending money, earning more than me, and your wealthy family is miserly. I don't know why I married you," I whispered, my voice laced with deep resentment. The beautiful memories we shared seemed tarnished, tainted by his actions. Tyler looked taken aback, observing the depths of my loathing. In an attempt to mask my pain, I forced a smile. "Well, marrying for money and ending up with repayment. Quite a sad story, isn't it?" "Shut up. I won't pay," Tyler retorted defiantly. "Too bad. Payment is non-negotiable," I stated firmly. My father-in-law, wearing a menacing expression, addressed Tyler. "I will be watching you until the payments are completed." Interrupting this tense atmosphere, a middle-aged doctor in a white coat entered. Coming directly to me, he handed over a document, asking, "Is there a reason you are not receiving treatment for your leg?" Confused, I glanced at Tyler, who was staring at the doctor with a pale face. The room was thick with tension, and the future felt uncertain. The doctor continued speaking, wearing a puzzled expression. "If you have surgery on your leg, you'll be able to move again. Didn't you hear that when you were diagnosed before?" "I didn't hear," I replied, glancing at Tyler, who avoided my gaze. A sense of foreboding washed over me. "Tyler, you lied to me," I accused, my voice tinged with betrayal, but he remained non-committal. My father-in-law, furious, berated him again. Turning to the doctor, I asked, "I didn't hear the diagnosis directly at the time. Could you please tell me?" "Yes, Amy, your illness is temporary paralysis caused by a herniated disc, leading to blood flow issues in your spinal cord. With some time and rehabilitation, you'll be able to walk again," the doctor explained gently. Tears welled up in my eyes at his words. I regretted trusting Tyler and not hearing the diagnosis firsthand. My disgust for him, who lied about a matter involving someone's life, deepened. "Why, Tyler? What's going on?" I demanded, my voice filled with anger and confusion. Tyler stood frozen, his shoulder trembling as he suddenly burst into tears. If Amy is free to roam the world, I'm always left behind. If she's in a wheelchair, she will always stay home and won't have more fun than me, right? Tyler sobbed, revealing his selfish jealousy. So what? Your selfishness forced me to live in a wheelchair for 2 years, knowing I could have had surgery to eliminate the pain and paralysis, yet you kept silent. That's the worst part, I retorted, my voice laced with exhaustion. Tyler hung his head in defeat, unable to respond. I looked at him with cold eyes, my father-in-law and the doctor glaring at him in righteous anger. May I explain the surgery to you tomorrow? The doctor asked, trying to bring back some semblance of normalcy. Yes, please do, I replied, my voice brightening with newfound hope. The doctor's warm smile gave me confidence in a brighter future ahead. I'll arrange for separate rooms, the doctor stated, but Tyler protested vehemently, refusing to be separated from me. Ignoring him, the doctor informed me, "See you tomorrow," before leaving the room. Amy, you're not really going to divorce me, right? Tyler pleaded desperately. A nurse entered, indicating my move to a different room, ensuring Tyler couldn't easily intrude anymore. Tyler resisted fiercely, his loud refusals ignored. The nurse wheeled me away, leaving Tyler screaming behind me. My father-in-law met my eyes and nodded in understanding, while I bowed my head in acknowledgement. That was the last time I saw Tyler. A few months later, divorce papers arrived through my lawyer, marking the end of our tumultuous relationship. Tyler, once disheartened, now lived under my father-in-law's strict supervision. His colleagues, aware of his deceit, turned their backs on him, leaving him to face the consequences of his actions. In the aftermath, I underwent surgery and spent months in the hospital for physical therapy. With my father-in-law's support, I could continue working while in a private room. After being discharged, consistent therapy and regular checkups allowed me to walk with a cane. In my daily routine, I began taking walks around the house. Recently, I exchanged contact information with someone I met during these walks, someone who had helped me when I stumbled. We plan to meet for a meal soon. The exhilarating feeling of a new spring fills me with excitement, and these days, the anticipation of a fresh start is unstoppable.